Hey, it's your old pal Lucid Stew again. This time we're going to talk about a sculpting technique using subsurface edits. My setup here is that I'm in sculpt mode. I have laid down a cube. I am currently using the stamp tool with the cone shape, and I am running the flat end of the cone along the surface of the cube, but on the inside of it. You can see that allows the creation of a very thin layer of sculpture which has some interesting properties we can utilize. Dreams is different from a traditional 3D renderer that uses vertices and polygons to render the surface of an object. Dreams uses volumes like a voxel renderer, and then covers those volumes with tons of splotches, which we call flecks, to give the impression that the underlying volume has a surface. One thing that polygon renderers can do that Dreams can't is utilize graphical information like texture maps or normal maps to introduce fine surface detail. A texture map is an image that you can put on the surface of a polygon to make it look like that image. A normal map is an image in a set of algorithms that give the illusion of height and depth on the surface that does not result from vertices or polygons. The downside of normal maps is that they're most effective viewed head-on and are ineffective viewed from the side, often appearing flat. Dream's answer to texture maps is a combination of coloring, spray painting, fleck type, and layering of paint strokes. Dream's renderer is very powerful in some ways, and very often you can sculpt detail in 3 dimensions with low cost, and that dispenses with the need for a normal map analog in many ways. You can also create surface detail in Dreams using the impasto emissive. However, there is a bit of a deficiency when it comes to creating fine surface detail easily under normal circumstances, and that is where subsurface edits can help. The technique is very simple. You place your sculpt tool under the surface of the sculpt you wish to alter. Bring the tool toward the surface until the tool is just barely visible, then create your edit. If you did it right, you should see a depression where you made the edit. What you're doing is creating a void inside the sculpt, which causes the surface of the sculpt to deform at certain levels of sculpture detail. You can see if you raise the sculpture detail high enough, the surface deformations disappear entirely. Conversely, if you lower sculpture detail enough, the thin layer of sculpture above the voids disappears. The surface does not have to be flat in order for this technique to have an effect. Here I'm doing the same thing with a sculpted sphere. I'm still using a cone-shaped stamp tool. You can see that as I orient the tool, some interesting surface patterns emerge. The effect is not the same on a flat surface. You can also try other tool shapes that conform better to curved surfaces like filled donut, sphere, or the curve tool. One nice thing about this technique is that it's relatively quick, especially on flat surfaces where you can spam edits without breaking the surface. And like the inside-out sculpting technique, you get all sorts of free detail you may not have been expecting. I think this technique is especially useful in first-person scenes where you're going to want to do everything you can to distract from the visible flecks that form the surface of all sculpts because you get the camera right up next to them. This breaks up that visible pattern and focuses attention on the surface imperfection you've created instead. Just like with the cube, increasing sculpture detail in the sphere causes the surface imperfections to go away. And then lowering detail to a certain point begins to expose the interior, creating interesting surface patterns in the process. If you play with the sculpture properties a little, you can utilize the results to great effect. Turning roughness and metalness up all the way creates a rusty looking surface, and our subsurface edits appear to be areas that are rusted out completely. Turning shininess up all the way and then increasing sculpture detail creates something akin to hand hammered metal. Turn sculpture detail down, add some glow, and now you have molten glass. Throw in a little spray paint and some sculpture animation and you have a lava river. Here's an example of how I've used this technique in a sculpt that I've uploaded to the Dreamiverse. I used this to add sculpture detail to a brick called Single Brick. You can also combine the technique with varying levels of looseness to get additional surface roughness that may be desirable. I don't do it here, but playing with ruffle a little in this instance might fine-tune this a bit as well. Anyway, it's an easy technique to try out. Give it a shot, see how it works for you, and I'll see you next time.